Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Technical Critic, and it's time for another review. I know, I am exceedingly late, and I'm nowhere nearly popular enough to be only releasing one video a month. This channel is practically undead, and actually, no, that's not a bad idea for a YouTube series, undead channels. But I have been busy. There's been quite a bit of stuff going on, and look, let's just agree to move forward. Don't hit that unsubscribe button just yet. The reviews are coming back. I promise. I'm back. Alright, so we're going to review a movie I've seen. Most people, and this has to do with Robin Williams, most people would agree that Night at the Museum 3 is Mr. Williams' final on-screen performance. And as that was a comedy, the majority of people would feel that is actually a very fitting final piece for a man whose name literally means "I warm billions," which is what he did. He brought to people a genuine feeling of happiness and comfort with everything he did. And even as his last film seen, Mr. Williams playing Tezzy, yes. Nope, we're sticking with that. Playing Tezzy Roosevelt, tells the protagonist that, look, if you love me, you have to let me go. And it's almost as if Robin Williams is speaking now not just as one character to another character, but as a beloved figure to the masses who continue to mourn his passing. However, in this year, 2015, is our privilege as moviegoers and movie lovers to view for one last time, one last performance by this very touching and very talented actor. Not a comedic performance, not his comedic persona, not at all, but from that darker place where comedy and tragedy both live. And again, for the last time, Robin Williams, as the dramatic actor, will give a glimpse of that world of darkness that dwells within him. It's amazing how comedy and tragedy are so closely linked to each other, and Mr. Williams shows you that with this film. I am of course talking about the most recently released Boulevard. Now, this was released in 2014 in some very select theaters and very select movie screenings and movie film festivals. However, it has finally become available en masse as of today, September the 2nd. So, I'm going to basically consider this to be the actual release date for Boulevard. Now, Boulevard, on the surface, is the study of an adulterer, and despite the fact that the movie is neither highly anticipated or particularly special in terms of the content it has or the delivery it has, the reason you're watching this film is because of Robin Williams. He is playing the main character, and as always, he doesn't disappoint. His portrayal is that of a closeted gay man who is finally forced to confront both his sexuality and his life in a way that is poignant and intensely interesting. And that being said, this is not a film, as you've probably guessed, this is not a film for just everyone and anyone. If you love Robin Williams, possibly. But this is really, I feel, it's going to appeal to people who are either very sexually confused or who are still in our modern time feeling that it is necessary to hide their true selves in order to have the acceptance of others, be it either their friends or their spouses, the people they love, their family, or their employers. And the movie runs the gamut in terms of showing how each of these things can affect a person in this particular situation. Speaking of which, there is a very interesting dynamic with the on-screen chemistries you see in this film. First and foremost, I should say, there are two giants of the stage in this film. First, you have Mr. Williams himself, but then you have Bob Odenkirk, who you may know more formally as Saul Goodman from both Breaking Bad and more recent series Better Call Saul. And I can tell you, as soon as these two have the screen together, one-on-one, they instantly start to feed off each other in that way that only good actors can. I mean, just their portrayal of old friends feels genuine. You can see that these two clearly know each other in a way that is timeless and just, it's beyond intimate. These, as soon as something happens, one person knows the other. There's scenes where Bob knows what Robin's going through even before the woman playing the wife, or even before anything else, and it just goes to show how good these two are together. You only wish that you could see more of them. But unfortunately, this is not Bob's movie. This is Robin's movie, and so the focus is shifted away from their relationship as friends and more to his and more to the problems that his character feels. And you can tell, watching the two of them interact with each other, you feel like they've been hemmed in just to the scenes that they have, that they're not free to play with the material that they've been given, to excel with it, to improvise, to do what both actors have shown that they're very good at doing. I mean, it's clear that both of them want to give more to this performance, but that never makes it on screen. And whether that's because of the director or just the script itself is unintelligible. But we must move on. Moving away from that, you've got to go to the main focus of this film, which is Robin and Roberto Aguirre, who is playing a homosexual prostitute that helps to facilitate Robin Williams' confrontation. I'm not going to call the character by it, I'm just going to call it Robin, because that's what you're watching. Who helps to facilitate Robin's confrontation and almost conversion with his own homosexuality. And speaking on Robert Aguirre, he's cute, he's nice to look at without his clothes on. However, he is very obviously overshadowed by Robin's ability to bring subtlety to a character and nuance. That being said, he still manages to hold his own and is believable as an emotionally damaged character with an abusive past and present. Now, I'm about to go on about this for quite some time, so if you want to skip forward, I'm not sure which way is forward, but if you want to skip forward, or just plain stop watching, I don't blame you. Most people don't make it that far through these reviews. But I would suggest that here's the place to do so, as I'm about to go quite in-depth with this analysis. I'll probably post a link around here somewhere that allows you to skip to the end. Alright, so Robert's character of Leo serves as a double-sided foil for Robin Williams' character. First and foremost, he is a tool for exploring his own suppressed sexuality, basically facilitating what is essentially Robin Williams' sexual growth, which we learn in a scene between Robin talking with his father that he has essentially smothered and left to be stunted since the time he was 12 years old in his preteens, just so that he could fit into the world around him as a regular anonymous person. One of those passerbys that you see, the guy who has a loving wife, a functional job, a couple of friends, and no kids. And basically, the suppression that Robin has gone through leads to his essential anonymity, which in turn forces him to become more repressed, and this forces him to become more anonymous, and And it turns into what I can only describe as a vicious circle that's crushing him as the world builds itself around what can only be described as a surrogate identity. And speaking of surrogates, the second function of Leo's character is to serve as the child that Robin Williams never had. Basically to be the surrogate child to Robin Williams, the son that never was. As he and his wife have no children, either by convenience or happenstance, Leo is the right age to fulfill this role. Robin is 60, he's somewhere in his mid-20s and 30s, so it works in terms of characters and age range. And he basically is there to fulfill the role of conduit for what Robin wanted to achieve but never could, both in a sexual sense but also in a sense of potential. Because he is young, because he has potential, he can blossom into a completely different person. It's not just that he has potential, it's that he can act as a second chance, almost as a voyeuristic way for Robin to live his life. And this becomes extremely important as the film goes on for several reasons. First and foremost is the absence of any sexual relationships. Despite the fact that this is a movie about sexual desire, there is never any actual sex in the movie. There's no sexual relations. It's hinted at and suggested at, but it's never formally acknowledged. It's never actually there. It's made, and I'll go through it, it's made extremely clear that Robin and his wife are sexually estranged. They sleep in separate bedrooms, they come together, they clearly do love each other. I mean, they fulfill a loving but platonic role. Robin is the dutiful provider. His wife, who's played by Kathy Baker, and she does a fairly okay job, she is his dutiful caretaker and custodian. They fulfill each other's needs, but not each other's desires. And what you would then expect is that Robin, upon finding somebody that he can finally give his sexual intentions to, would do so. You would essentially think that he would become a double persona, that he would have the one side with his wife where he is the perfect loving husband, but then when he's with Leo, when he's with this young gay prostitute, he can release his true sexual self with a person that shares in a similar desire and basically blossom and grow. And you can almost tell that this is the original intention of Robin before he meets Leo. The scene where they meet is Robin is at a red light in the red light district, and he sees a line of prostitutes, and he decides to make a U-turn and is driving by all of them slowly. As if he's prepared to make a selection. However, because he's not paying attention, he runs into Leo. It's accidental. And this is interesting because Robin doesn't make the selection. It's almost as if fate is making the selection for him. But Robin, even when confronted with this possibility of engaging in what he wants, he can't bring himself to do it. Leo even makes it a point in every meeting of theirs to offer sex in one form or another to Mr. Williams, going so far as to completely strip himself naked in front of Robin. And while Robin is definitely interested in what's going on, so far as he pays him every time they meet, he says that all he just wants to do is to be with, to look, to admire. The idea of having a sexual relationship with Leo isn't there, or if it is, he doesn't feel it's correct or necessary to act upon it. I mean, even when he discovers that Leo, who is a prostitute by trade, is having relations with another client, this really, really upsets him, and he feels wronged. He even goes so far as to try and get Leo a job outside of that, and when Leo fails to show up, either because he can't or he won't, he tries to cover for him as best he can. He's basically being a good father, is what one can say. He's admiring this person who he sees almost as his son, both sexually, but then on the flip side of that, he wants him to do better for himself, and that's where that parental instinct towards Leo comes in. Now, then you have to look at how Leo feels about Robin. Leo, on the other hand, doesn't want to accept any of this. He sees Robin only as a client. And while there might be some feeling, some mutual feeling between the two of them, or either to Robin on Leo's part, in the end it's only about sex and money. He can't bring himself to have any kind of relationship, or at least the kind of relationship that Robin wants to have with him. And this is likely due to his past, because it's brought up as a throwaway reference when he's talking about where he comes from, his home, the abusive men that have been in his life, mostly the ones who are dating his mother, his stepfathers, etc. And in the end, he can't even embrace Robin. He can't, when Robin tries to hug him, he can't do that, but he's still willing to submit to him sexually. Robin goes to hug him, and he's holding him, and Leo can't do it. He backs away, and he starts to unbuckle his pants. He says, "This I can do, but I can't. The character is so emotionally broken, and it comes out through Leo and Robin's interaction, and it's beautiful in its subtlety. It's something you have to see. Now, in terms of Leo's character, in the end, he ends up overdosing on heroin, and then when Robin tries to help him, he basically flees. He disappears, and he's never to be heard from again. He gives up possibly because he wants to, but most likely because he doesn't know how to, or how to have a relationship, or see how the relationship that he wants to have, that Robin wants to have with him, could possibly continue into a bright future. He only sees it coming to rack and ruin, as all else has done in his past. Now, the other reason that this relationship of the surrogate is important is because of what this means to the character. As the film progresses, Robin admits to his own father, who is extremely old and decrepit, he's essentially functionless. He can see, he can recognize, he has a couple of basic functions left, but he can't speak, he can't do anything for himself. He just lies there. So he confronts his father, and he tells him about his own homosexuality. And one of the few pleasures that Robin's dad has left to enjoy is ginger ale, which Robin Williams brings him. It's a point that at the very beginning of the movie you see Robin trying to give him ginger ale, and he can't give it to him because it's carbonated, but he does so anyways because it's his father. However, after his son reveals who he truly is, this man who can't get up without any help, who is essentially trapped inside of his own body, does his best to turn away from the straw. And the symbolism here is excessively obvious. Robin can't change his past, which is represented by his father. Even by admitting the truth in a situation where he has nothing to lose. I mean, if you think about what he's doing, for a regular person who is homosexual, be they man or woman, coming out to your parents is probably one of the most harrowing experiences someone of that sexuality has to go to. I mean, if you think about it, if you think about how easy straight people have it, straight people don't have to come out to their parents. They don't have to say, "Mom, Dad, I'm straight. Can you still love me?" right? Which is a mind-boggling thing if you really sit down and think about it. It's completely baffling when you think about it. And Robin is in a situation where it's not like his dad. It's not like if he was a teenager, his dad can throw him out of the house, or is going to send him away to one of these Pray the Gay Away camps, or put him in some kind of therapy, or put him on some kind of drugs, or totally disown him, or any of that, right? He's in a situation where almost nothing could go wrong. And even so, it's impossible to change what has already occurred. Therefore, he has to start anew. Despite everything that he's done to avoid this happening, he has to do what every person in this situation has to do. They have to begin anew. They have to build their life from where they are and not be ashamed of what they have. And in terms of building his life anew, it's represented, as I mentioned before, by Leo's youth. Children are the natural successors to their parents. They are what the failed dreams, the failed wants, the failed desires are channeled into and onto once it becomes apparent that these things are totally unattainable for an adult. It is almost cliche to say, to hear, oh, the reason I'm becoming a doctor is because my dad wants me to become a doctor because he didn't have the opportunity to become a doctor. I mean, that stereotype exists for a reason, and it's because of this. Children have the burden of their parents' expectations and wants. And they are not free of that unless they stand up and say, no, that's not what I want. And the fact that Robin sees Leo as a son he never had, but could have had, signals that Robin is ready to put forth and realize this new beginning. Alright, so now that that's out of the way, now that that relationship thing is out of the way, we can finish the review. So, welcome back if you skipped ahead. If you stopped and started again, oh well, I'm sorry we lost you, but only the strong survive. That is the way of the world. Robin's attraction to Leo eventually gets him canned, although not for his homosexuality, not for the reason you think, but because he was absent at a dinner that his supervisor had gotten him in order to try and get him promoted to a bank manager. And this forces him and his wife to finally confront the situation that they've been living with for all these years. Robin has essentially used her to try and mask his true self and become what is considered normal. Robin's wife has used him to not be alone, and they've both essentially been very selfish in their use for one another. But despite this fact, they do love each other. The movie goes to great pains to show that these two love each other, and it does, and that what one feels sexually towards the other, it doesn't matter. But even so, even with the fact that they do love each other, their relationship has come to its natural end. It has progressed as far as it can go, and this is the end point. It's very hard for Robin's wife to accept that. She doesn't want to let go, even though she realizes she has to. And in the end, telling the truth sets everyone free. Sure, Robin gets canned, but he gets to start to live the life he wants to. His wife, who always wants to go on vacations, who always wants to go somewhere, she gets to go on a cruise, she gets to go on an adventure the way that she always wanted. His best friend is finally motivated by Robin coming out to get up off his ass, go to New York, and fulfill his passion for writing. And as I said, Robin is allowed to express himself as he truly is, and that in itself is a great triumph. Now, mechanically, overall, the movie is very paint by numbers. The beginning is extremely exposition heavy. There's no getting around that, especially with the type of movie this is. But as with all great actors, it is their presence and their expertise in the role which allows it to speak that much deeper to the audience, who with a lesser name would not bother giving this film a thought, much less the time necessary to watch it and to understand it and to interpret it and to internalize it. If this was not Robin Williams acting, this movie would be straight to video. It would have gone totally unnoticed and no one would have cared. As I did mention, the exposition is there. However, it's very front-loaded, but it's not done to death, right? It's not done to where it's distracting from the film. You can see it as necessary. And while it's Robin's last role, it's not his most memorable by a very wide margin. However, as a straight piece of drama, I can think of many, and I mean many other worse movies you could invest a lot more time in as well. August Osage County, Paper Towns, 50 Shades of Grey, just to name a few. And to be quite honest, if you love Robin, it's worth to see him give one of what can truly be considered his very few dark performances. But I will warn you, don't say I didn't warn you, this movie is most definitely meant as a soulful piece and not as a piece of entertainment. So that's my review. Overall, I would give this film an 8.5 to a 9 out of 12. That's where I feel this film is at. It's not spectacular, but at the same time, it's not awful. It's mediocre. Actually, I wouldn't even say it's mediocre. It's middle ground. It's hampered by what it is, but it's made all the better by who's in it, and it becomes fully what it could be. Alright, so that is Boulevards. Mr. Williams, as always, you bring us inspiring films. And this one's no exception. I feel that someone who is in the position where they feel that they have to hide themselves, or someone who is questioning their own sexuality, that this is a good film. And it will help them. It will, at the very least, encourage them to explore themselves and what they should and shouldn't do. Alright, so that's my review, and I will see you next time.